The caveat is that they're all connected. So shadows kind
Yeah.
of feed from one another in the end, and the gifts feed from one another. It's almost like you tap into the shadow, you turn them all on across the board, and it
Yeah.
depends. No matter what key you have your shadow in.
People like you that are enabling great change for others, and just your presence and just your being. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a celebrity to do it either. You can just be walking down the street or sitting in a room.
Yeah, and you're making the difference.
How can I contribute something? And that's a big fear too. It's like, oh, I'm going to change my city or my town or my country. Like, yeah, it's possible. It starts with one person. Gene key 4, intolerance, understanding, forgiveness. If we have this gene key prominently in our profile, we're going to stop needing to know and finally understand. We'll start laughing. Happiness never comes through answers. It only comes when we're so tired of answers that we just decide to live the questions fully. Our life radiates the answer, and finally we can relax and be of the deepest service to the world. Youthful folly. That was my first note. Youthful folly. If the fourth shadow decides it doesn't like someone, it finds a whole list of logical reasons to support its dislike. There's so much good in here, like, because it's a direct explanation for what's happening in the world and how people are kind of going mad and how things have shifted. And the shift is like, it's disrupting a lot of the old paradigm thinking that, you know, white side is good and black side is bad, good versus evil, red versus blue, whatever it is. And so this new paradigm of like, maybe we're all connected and unified, it's very disorienting.
Which makes us intolerant. It's almost forcing us, the shadow of intolerance is forcing us to choose the side. And
Right.
if I'm on this side and I'm right, or this is my truth and I live in this shadow, by default, you're wrong.
Yes.
Or you're different, which makes me not like you. And it causes all this disruption of truth. What is actually the truth? The truth is that I'm opposite from you, that is not wrong, that you, if you don't follow my path, you follow your own, which is complete opposite from mine, is also not wrong. I love it because it's like you said, you see it in the world, but you also see it in us sometimes too.
How so?
Because whenever we don't go from the heart and we use our intellect and mind to allow it to make decisions in our life, we're in opposition for something in life.
Right.
And you can almost see when we tap into the logical side of allowing the mind to make decisions, which often turn out not to be so great for anybody, not us, rather than speaking from the heart and from this like unattached way.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I see it. Intolerance. It's like every time you speak from the mind, you're almost very much tapping into intolerance area. Because I'm smarter, Eric. What do you mean you read it too? No, no, no. My way is better way.
Yeah, who decides? The one that's louder or more logical? The better debater. And it's funny taking like a debate class as like a life skill. Like, who can win the argument? But it does teach you that at least it teaches you that there's multiple sides, and you can in that setting you can practice playing the side that you're not comfortable with, and it actually sends your brain somewhere that you weren't capable of going before. Like, okay, let me really explore this and defend it as my position. And then it, in a way, much like travel, it enables you to see a new flavor of life, a new way of being that can only expand you, can only broaden your capacity for contemplation, which is what it is. Because to call it thinking it again traps you. If you're like, let me think of the way, let me think of an answer, let me think of a solution. Often it's already known in our body, somewhere here in our solar plexus, or like you said, from your heart.
I love that, because that is exactly, that's how I felt it too. It's almost like the mind is there to communicate this.
Right.
It's not there to make the decision.
Right.
We can read so many books and be so intellectually advanced, but really what we're trying to do is not let it lead us through life, rather than elaborate on this
Yes.
feeling,
Yeah.
heart, love. It
And I
just,
had
it's
something,
so good.
yeah, I had something come in as a download, and I thought you'd really enjoy it.
Mm.
And I wanted to see like what it sparks in you. So specifically for this gene key, I had it come in. The shadow is like heavy ink, like you're writing it, and it's very thick, bold. The gift is like light pencil, and then the city is like sound, the sounds of existence.
Oh, it's almost like it doesn't have a need to be recorded at all, ever.
Right.
But yet you heard it, you hear it. It's stimulating your senses rather than putting it on the paper. You don't hear it, you don't really absorb it, you're letting it, you're recording it. There's just something about that, the record in time. What, it's almost like it makes me question, why do we have to record anything? Why can't we just be? Why can't
Yeah.
we just enjoy what it is? And that can come through any other format other than putting, recording something and saying it as a truth. Because truth will change, we will evolve no
Right.
matter what, and we will change, everything will collapse, and in order for new rebirth to happen, which is a lot, we have a lot to say about this in the fourth and fifth. But how did that resonate? Why, well, where is the download coming from? What does that mean to you?
To me, yeah, it's speaking on that recording, like at the highest state. It's not. It's kind of like it's again youthful folly. It's like mental masturbation. Like we're all just here, just getting off on each other's ideas, and it's like, what are we doing? Like, what are we really doing at the highest level? But at least I can resonate with the gift being like light pencil, meaning like the light pencil, you have an eraser, it takes no time at all to erase it and write something new. But it's interesting, the shadow being heavy ink, it's like heavy ink, or it's like printed paper. Like you can't change it. I mean, you could put white out, which who knows, but um
Mm.
speaking on recording, like personal, I've gone, as a Pisces or whatever it is, I've gone through like yin and yang of like, oh, I want to share, I want to explore, I want to create, I want to help people. And then I go through these like periods of time where I'm like a hermit. I'm like, nobody needs me. I don't need to be involved. I don't need to be out there. And the life goes on. I find both useful, but I want to ask you, do you, because you mentioned it kind of like vaguely for humanity, but for yourself, what do you think about recording what you're doing and what you're learning, and as you're working through things, recording and sharing?
You mean um, us actually recording this and sharing with humanity?
this and anything else in your life?
Mm. Wow, what a good question. So, first, I think we all go through seasons, and as everything in nature, we are nature, and that's the fifth gift, which I understand on a completely different level now because I'm at a different time, which doesn't exist, but okay. And I think as the season change, so does the growth of the planet, and us changes too. This plant next to me, there's no coincidence that I'm actually surrounded by plants because these are my babies. And they were small, but they're not small, meaning they evolved and they're different. So the energy with them is very different too. And the seasons, sometimes they stagnate, sometimes they're in hermit mode, you can tell. And sometimes you just want to go and burst and they want to grow fast and now. So the recording of a presence and what we feel to do right now is happening right now in this season. That doesn't mean both of us want, I or you will not go through the hermit mode saying, does this even make sense? But how I see it is us actually evolving to the city level by tapping into shadow and gift occasionally as the seasons come and go. So shadow is there and it's always going to be there unless collective changes and we erase all shadows. But even if we erase all 64 shadows, another layer of shadows will show up. So the shadows will be always there for us to question, why are we doing this? And what is the legend that we're leaving behind in this physical realm? But really, how I see the recording of all the work that we're doing and putting it out there for public is just our own involvement and our own way to evolve to another layer. And the discovery that we speak out loud rather than processing it within our own hermit and our own mirroring way. So to pull back to the personal level and say a story is that would so actually to ask you a question, would you rather process internal turmoil, shadow shadow gift seasons, looking at yourself in a mirror and just mirroring your energy, or would you rather process it with somebody else? It can be me, it can be Carly, it can be the world.
Somebody else, I think.
Why so?
Initially, it's familiarity. Like, just I've done that practice a couple of times, and it's been deep. But what's familiar to me is having this exchange and having this engagement, and having a different perspective is so helpful. It's so nice.
Yeah.
And there is something too about like when I'm looking in the mirror, and maybe this is for me to take home and try, but I have line 5 as my root on the Gene Keys profile. So using my voice is key to like grounding and getting connected. So by just looking in the mirror or just thinking, and even with meditation, like I can only go so deep. But if I find something that I can use my voice, it's much more impactful and it lasts longer, more grounding. So that to me, the preference would be working with another being, with another person.
Yeah. Or sharing and putting it out there in order
Yeah.
for whatever that there is to be reflected back to us so we can grow and expand even more. Because if I look at myself in a mirror, I don't reflect back opposition from me. I really don't. I don't see the opposition. I see true me, but I need the opposition from the world and public and you and everybody else to tell me and to help me expand. So that's how I see all the work being done. And instead of really holding it within, I think it's the energy that has to be shared in order for overall expansion to happen within and out.
Yes. Yes. And a returning of the gifts that I've received and watching people work through material or share what they're learning and then like getting downloads from that. It's like, well, let's do that too. And then maybe even if one person gets something, it's like, okay, that was a huge win for them, you know, helping others. The
Yeah.
altruistic side, yeah.
It's and honestly, it's like it's it's done from here. I always come back to the vision between the mind and the heart. It's like the energetic heart is really what is doing this work for us first. Because I can only change me. You can only change you. And knowing that we're changing ourselves, we're already changing the collective and participating in this, game called life. But if we do it here rather than here, and here will mean we're doing this to make money, we can be better, rather than we're doing this work because we need this work.
Mm-hmm.
And you can follow with us together and come and join. For fact, I actually think this two-way street will turn into a 10-way street
Yeah.
eventually. We'll have a bunch of people coming and like talking, and we can just expand to 5-hour workshops eventually. Because, it's like, why even holding a goal? And I said this earlier on the earlier call. The measure is not the goal.
Yeah.
The measure is pleasure. And the pleasure is the journey. And the longer the journey in
More pleasure.
anything that you do, the more pleasure. Doesn't matter where it ends. For fact, I don't want it to end ever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because the longer it lasts in anything in life, the better it gets.
Yeah.
This is my fifth patience. So this is what I'm learning. Okay, cool. How about this? I really like this one. As a shadow frequency, you identify absolutely with your emotional state, which defines the way you live your life. Any unresolved emotional patterns is taken by your mind and built into a highly intricate logical framework that masquerades as the absolute truth.
Mm.
So, if we all come by default with some sort of unresolved, we call it trauma. There's no better word for now that replaces trauma, or obstacles that keep coming back in loop later on in life, again and again and again, until they're resolved. And they will be coming back to you abruptly out of blue, when you don't expect them, when you don't need them, you don't want them, you think you resolve them. No, the point is nothing gets resolved ever, but the patterns keeps coming back, and the work that you put in to resolve them when they come is really what I think is leaving the shadow work, leaving, like, letting go of this shadow and moving into the gift. Unresolved emotional patterns will be a complete prey for the mind to grab onto and masquerade your life.
Yeah,
Meaning,
right.
fake it and give you the fallacy that you're fighting for something because of whatever, whatever. But instead, you really need to come down to the heart and say, wait a minute, I'm getting triggered by this. I have some unemotional emotional patterns that I didn't even tap into yet. Until I resolve this, I cannot leave the shadow. Yes, mind, thoughts.
Yeah. Amazing. It's
What
like
do you?
well, today the struggle was with my boys, like feeling this anger and then trying to, like, I understand anger is a cover emotion, and I'm like, okay, what's actually happening underneath? And it's like this fear that I don't have any control whatsoever.
Mm.
And it's a pattern that's been there from my childhood of like not having control and then choosing like an adaptation to survive. And so for me now as a parent, like, oh, I get to be a parent, I'm gonna have control, I get to have say, my rules, my house, you know how it goes. And that's it's just not happening. My kids are like deconstructing that day in and day out, just like tearing it to shreds. And I'm just having to like come back. It's honestly like a daily practice now, like coming back to, oh, okay, this sucks. And then even just saying that or just like admitting to myself, like it's not perfect. My 4-year-old will come around and be like, hey, Dad, what's going on? What's wrong? And just that interaction is now, it's cleaned up the day. Whereas before it was like kind of butting heads. You know, he's trying to get his point in, I'm trying to get my point in. We're both being very intolerant to the other side. And there, yeah, it's complicated, of course, because of the parent. You know, he could get hurt or in trouble or whatever. So I do have to put my foot down. I'm not saying, I don't want people to get the impression that I let my kids run the roost. That's not how it goes. But it's also an understanding of like, am I actually trying to protect them in this moment? Am I actually trying to look out for them and care for them? Or am I trying to get my needs met somehow? Am I trying to get my emotional fix somehow? Am I trying to get tension in this moment? What is it? And it's, if I can ask that question, if I get to that point and I can ask that question, the answer is always like instant, and it's always what I hope it's not. And it shows up anyway. It's like a slap in the face.
Which is, it's you. It's not even your boys.
Yeah,
It's you.
it's me. It's like it's me, and more than often they're just reflecting an aspect of me that's, or like like we said, generational trauma or the karma that hasn't been worked through, and they're just showing me like, hey, this is your burden for now. Like, I took it on myself as a mission to be the one that stopped the generational trauma. And then they show up every day and they're like, you got work to do. And I'm like, oh, I did the work yesterday. I don't have to do it today.
It never stops. And that's the point. And how I see it, it's like while you were talking, I was like visualizing whenever you get like intolerant, like, it doesn't mean if you don't have this in your chart, doesn't mean we don't reflect because they pull each other. How I see it, all shadows work together. And where we're all in the shadow, we kind of are all collectively in the same shadow, which I really like. And that's the new way of looking at it. So it's almost like when we end up in this shadow, you're so logical about everything. And logically, you want to have control, you want to go to war, you want to win, it needs to be your way. But the moment you realize that and you drop into your heart, you look at your boys and you're like, as wild as you are, as destroyable that you want to freaking light this fire in the house and burn it all to the ground, you're here to learn the same exact thing that I was learning in your age. Explore, be free, destroy, rebuild, find the sense in this, maybe creation of something, maybe color, maybe, I don't know, like I painted my entire house. My mom came back once I was 6 and I literally destroyed the walls. And she came and I thought it was a great thing. She's like,
Yeah.
the fuck just happened? Are you serious? Like, it was disaster, but it was the best thing for me. And it's really how she approached it. Rather than yelling at me and building all this scare or fear that I did something wrong, she allowed me. And she's like, you know what? Fuck it. Heart speaks. In the heart, this is just the creative side of you. You just happen to draw on the walls and the couch rather than on the paper. But when you tap down, all of this like tension and attachment somehow disappear. True? I don't know. I don't have kids. You tell me.
It feels very true. And in a way too, they're trying to get emotional needs met. And I think what's triggering sometimes is like, no, you can't get your needs met because I haven't gotten my needs met yet. Oof. And Carly and I think we both go back and forth, or today was like, we were all in it. And it's like, okay, it's one thing to say like, okay, yes, you can cry, and yes, you can be angry, and yes, you can have a fight and then have a meltdown and have a breakdown. But after like 7-8 hours, and if we haven't done the work or made time for it, which really, as we get into the 5th, it's like, of course, it's going to be highly triggering because we're offering something to them that we didn't get. And in the moment, of course, we're not getting it. But it feels like, well, hey, if I fix this, then I'll feel better. And it's not necessarily about the feeling of better. It's just the feeling itself. And the feeling is like I'm drawing a vortex down here. It just sucks you in. It just pulls you into it. And it's like I had this thought. I was laying here this morning just on the couch. I had two boys on my back, and they're just going like one after the other, just hopping on my back and then landing on my head and then kind of rotating around. I'm just laying there looking at the floor, and I'm thinking, what if it was always like this? And what if this is all it was? And how can I tap into like this moment instead of trying to escape it?
Mm.
And it was the one moment when I had like a restful feeling come into my body. And it was in the midst of the boys just jumping all over me and climbing on me. And so it's tricky. It's so tricky using logic to try to explain it. It's really just kind of communicating the feeling that I've been having and just sharing like, man, like I want to cry, I want to yell, I want to scream, I want to run away, I want to dig into a hole and just hide forever, and just really feeling it. And for most of my life, like most people that know me are like, you're cool, calm, and collected. You never have emotions. You don't react to things.
Mm.
And here I am in my own household on a Sunday morning, just going through it.
Can I try something with you?
Of course.
Okay, so it's not going to take that long, but it's going to take some concentration to tap into it. And this is the practice that I just discovered recently that helps me understand what is happening. That helps me understand what is happening on my emotional body and how can I use the logic to understand how to process this. So we'll just take 5 minutes away from the jinkies, and I want to see if this is something that maybe can be helpful for you too. So if you close your eyes and you put your one hand on your heart, the other one on your belly, and you're gonna take a deep breath. And take couple breaths in and out. And sink into your body. And I invite you to go back to the couch with your boys behind your back. And while they're moving and shaking your entire body on the couch together, I want you to feel your body and the emotion that comes in. And can you sound and name the emotion when you're ready?
Agreed.
Okay. Now, is there a part of your body that you feel this emotion, like a dot, like a little mini pocket or a box that sits on your body somewhere? Scan your entire body, head to toe.
I think it's my right shoulder.
Okay. So with your inhale, try to enter that box on your right shoulder and just be in it. And as you enter, feel with your entire body that it's in that box. Feel the grief. Feel it take over your entire body because you're now sitting right in it. You have power here in this box to transform the grief into the emotion that you want and accept it as part of you. And instead of getting inward, try to shoot this outward through your entire body. So if you can choose the emotion to replace the grief and shoot it through your body, so your ends of your fingers and toenails and hair and shoulders and your back, and you feel it everywhere, shoot this outwardly to your entire body. Like a wave, like a radiance, like a sending a good energy out, like a love that you can send to everything and everybody and all parts of your body and your boys around and this entire house that you're in, Carly included, your entire community. Shoot it out, shoot it out, shoot it out, outward. This is you. In every darkness, there's a light you can find when you tap back into it and you choose, because duality sits in us, in anything that we feel. And if it's located in your body, you have the power to change it. The moment you exit your mind and you put it in your body, you're changing the emotional states that you just entered. Feel it, crunch it, move your shoulders, crunch your toes, try to dance, open your arms. Yes, yes.
Oh.
Fuck yeah. So when you sit on that couch, and this is, I think, what the intolerance comes in. This is exactly what it is, because it reminded me on that games. The moment we leave the brain and the mind of what is supposed to be, what we're supposed to fix, how am I supposed to be the best father, better than that, the one I had? How am I doing it all wrong? The moment we leave this and tap into the body and work your way from this part outward, literally the things shift. You change your chemical disbalance in your body, and your perception now is not here, it's actually here in your heart and your energetic heart, which is all over your body. What did you feel? Would you want to share?
I have so much warmth in the back of my neck, like going up, and it just feels like, I mean, physiologically it feels like blood flow going up, which is interesting because in grief there's like a blocking, right, of I wouldn't want this to feel the or be connected, but to now feel blood flow, it's like okay, and that's shooting that love through my body. It's like this, you're now able to be free and allow emotions to come and go as they want, and it's okay to feel. It's okay to feel the range expression.
This one is for you. I actually wrote it, and I didn't know it was for you because you mentioned grief. I wrote it today earlier. Grief is a beautiful emotion. We only grieve if we're able to love. Understanding that grief is there makes you proud because love is there. You can only grieve if you're in love, universal love, and there's so much love.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful what you're feeling, really. Thanks for playing with me.
Yeah, thank
Usually,
you for that.
Yeah, for this it takes time. Usually it's 30 minutes. We flipped it in 5. You're like extraordinary. But I hope next time you're laying down on the couch and your boys are pulling your hair out and your beard and it's hurting you a lot and you want to smack them or tell them the rules, sit in it and find it in your body. Usually this when it comes out, it sits somewhere in our body and we never know what's going to come out. And the next level and step is really to find it, enter it, and actually dig out. So the childhood memories will come out that we suppressed, and something will just keep coming and boiling up. Whatever that it needs to happen to come out will come out. When you find it, you enter and you create it as a baby, and then you talk to it.
Yeah.
And while you talk to it, you shrink the time, which is our
It's familiar to me. I have Teal Swan's book, The Completion Process, which is just that. It's essentially like going into the practice that you just exemplified, and then there's a little more like nuance and a little more time spent in the emotions and in the memories, reprogramming. But yeah. I love the work. Like you said, if you're looking in a mirror, it's harder because you have more distractions and more things that you can occupy your mind. But if you have someone leading you and guiding you, it's really helpful.
We need people.
Yeah.
And we need to love them, and we need to get hurt by them too. People, including kids and our parents. Mm-hmm. So pain is good. Intolerance is just part of the process.
Yeah. I wrote down a couple quotes here. Referring to science, and I have my degree, my undergrad in science, and really enjoyed like physics and other classes that took like a model of the world and helped me be like, okay, there's a container, like this all makes sense. Mm-hmm. So the quote is, even science is rarely truly objective. Only if science can challenge logic as the only means of acquiring truth. Otherwise, it's intolerant. And I thought of Nikola Tesla because he seemed to have, he played in the esoteric and he played in imagination, and then he also played in science and combined a lot of different, what would you call them? Fields of study into a synthesis, and was able to derive like so much knowledge from the universe and downloads from the Akashic records, and then able to share it, you know, way ahead of its time, like tremendously so, and ridiculed by the scientific community, as were and as are any pioneer, anyone that's coming up with something new or tapping into something that goes against the status quo. They're often, you know, trampled and betrayed, and you know, their titles are stripped away, all these things. So I take it as like a sign, not always true, but usually if someone's being attacked on a collective level like that for radical ideas, there's something there that's useful that people aren't ready for it to come out yet, or people aren't ready for that level of introspection and reflection.
And are you speaking science, or are you speaking the out of earth downloads and records that we're not ready to comprehend yet?
Well, it made me think of the out of earth download, because I was able to tie it with the scientists that were tapping into that. It can be science or it can be anything. It could be like a study of the pyramids, or a mathematician, or a musician, like Bach. You know, like what was he tapping into?
So we're all a little crazy. And when we realize our logical mind is not enough, we tap into the other side, which is art. So you mentioned a Bach, and you mentioned a lot of like a lot of different spiritual out of earth, out of body experiences that maybe Tesla tapped into too, to bring all these records from the future to our present. And we were not ready at that time. We're still not ready for a lot of things, and that he came up with. But I'm thinking, if the science comes with the logic, as it says, can prove that the science is wrong as well.
Yes.
So the logic and the mind is in automatic opposition, and the heart is objective. The logic is subjective. And if it's able to be proven now, like right now, what are we talking about? Newton's law of attraction or whatever, law of gravity.
Mm-hmm.
It's good, but it's a tiny little piece of what there is more for us to discover. And now we know logically that the gravity is not really all that there is. Right. So by default, the science disproves a lot of things that I don't know, was it Newton or somebody out there that was so physics, so calculated, so mathematical. So the logic and the science are trying to find the proof. But if I find the proof this time, I can also logically find the proof to disprove what the proof previously proven was. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes, using logics and proofs. It's self-defeating, or it's just an endlessly, like you're just gonna spin your wheels forever.
Yes. And wait, are we talking about shadow or are we talking about the gift right now?
Well,
Did we pass? We passed through the gift, right?
I don't. I haven't yet.
Yeah.
Not on paper.
Okay. If we talk about science, I think that's the gift of understanding that the logic is there and it will always be the subjective rather than the heart or what is not logical, which is not
Right.
science. It's just spiritual world that doesn't make really sense, but yet it feels good and it's very objective and it's generic. It's philosophy. It's a theory. It's the etheric. Can't taste it. You can't really use your senses for it. It's not logical. It's crazy. But yet, it's the gift of understanding that both will come, that you need both. And how I see it through this fourth key is like, you need your mind. You can't go without the mind. But the mind is there to really understand and comprehend intellectually how to speak this. So
Mm-hmm.
the collective understands it.
Yes, and communicating those ideas to the collective, and also creating, and this was spoken about, creating harmony, or creating an existence that is more harmonious. Like that is the role of the logical mind, and the rote, like easy decision making, and the trying to figure things out, that should come from the body, from that solar plexus area, where the collection of all those neurons are existing. Like we have, for how far we've gotten with science, like we'll go to an operating table and let doctors split us open, especially in the stomach. But it's just like a second brain. So what are we doing? And I had my appendix removed, and I keep thinking, like, one day I'm gonna find out, like they took out, like my neocortex. I'm just like, no wonder my thinking is so affected, and having like a surgery or having all these things happen. So that's kind of a side trail, but.
So let's go back to your moment of parenting, because I think it's relevant to it. How do you differentiate the shadow and the gift? How do you differentiate what is that you're making the decisions for parenting? Where is it coming? Where is your decision being made from? Your logical mind, which is science in this case, or your heart space, which is spirit in this case?
Right. And I can feel both. And often, like, as an example, this happened like 3 weeks ago. Carly was taking the kids somewhere so I could do some work here at the house. And she was so they have drum circle on Sunday night. I think it was for this podcast, actually. And she was going to take him to the drum circle, which is at this lawn by the ocean. It's a cool place, and you can dance, and there's drummers. It's like a wonderful community. And I was like trying to talk the kids into not going there and just going down by the ocean, close to where we are. And then so I got them on board, and then I tried to convince Carly not to go and just to go close. And she's like, "Yep, okay, thanks. I'm going anyway." And I was like, I stomped away like a little kid, like throwing a fit. And I sat with it, and I talked with a mentor of mine, and came to understand like, okay, why was this working overtime? Why was it working so hard to try to create something that, like, why did I need to control any of it? And it was because there was a hint of jealousy that I wanted to be there, that I wanted to go. And so in like sabotaging their plan, like, okay, now I feel good because I get to do work here and I'm not missing out. And so that became a clear example for me where I can look back on it and remember, like, is this coming from here? Because if it is, it's probably trying to solve for something missing here, for some emotional need that hasn't been met. But if I come down here and make a decision, it's like really easy. It's quite simple and it's fluid. Like it kind of goes along with everything that's already in motion or that what people are leaning into already, instead of like getting everyone to come over to this side of the room and then be like, okay, now I'm good. It's like, you're already over there. Let's just do that thing and continue on.
Hmm. The fact that you actually named it and defined it is huge. And you actually shared it is huge. Huge. Which starts the process of chemical, whatever reaction that has to pass through the body in order for it to be done and over with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just to give you this is credit for you, Eric, which I don't usually give to people. But just to give you the credit for fact that you're a man, the head of the house, and have this like a lot of expectations as a father, as a husband, as you know, it's the fact that you actually genuinely admitted something that it's very hard for a man to do is breaking news in science, because this is where it starts. This is exactly where it starts, even though you call it a hint or not. It's like the fact that you admitted it is already turning on your chemical processes for you to actually process it gently and on a healthy way rather than suppressing it. And the fact that you're actually thinking about, wait a minute, what I just said, like, where is this coming from? You're able to actually like figure things out on your own and correct yourself rather than creating a whole another mess and layers that later on you have to deal with is like huge.
Yeah.
I should call Carly and tell her you're lucky. Yeah, because you have totally, you have right to get pissed and jealous. Come on, it's a human emotion. We came here for emotions. Otherwise, you come in a form of dog who doesn't have emotions. You came here to learn and process all these emotions, but the fact that you actually took it genuinely and absorbed it and released it that way, in benevolent way, rather than like, ooh, I feel jealous. Ooh, a man would. I didn't meet men who would actually admit that. So good. I'm glad.
Thank you. Yeah. The work continues because it's like, in understanding it now, I didn't need to try to manipulate the situation and change it. I could have just communicated, once I know it, it's like, okay, just so you know, Carly, you're welcome to still do whatever you want. I'm just letting you know that I'm jealous that you guys are going to the drum circle because I'm feeling like it would be beneficial to me. I'd rather be doing that. Like, we haven't had this conversation yet, but I imagine she would say, thank you for telling me. And I'm still going to go. I hope you have a good time here. And it's like, okay, I don't need to stomp off and throw a tantrum like a 4-year-old now. I can be like, yeah, it's an emotion. I acknowledge it. It exists.
Well, let me ask you now. I'm curious. Why didn't you talk to her yet about it? Three
Oh, I
weeks
did.
later. Did you tell her this?
I told her, yeah, the next day. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And how did she take it?
She was like, sounds good, thank you. Yeah. That wasn't
Ah,
she's the side of Carly you maybe haven't seen yet is this story like where she's like, okay, I'm gonna take them anyway. Like she's very like, yep, I'm gonna do it anyway. Yep, I'm doing it. Like today, I was asking her why she wasn't following a recipe for something she was making. She was like, I'm just doing it. I don't care. And I'm like, wait, we have to follow the directions. She's like, no, I'm not doing it. So when I told
yeah.
her, she was like, yeah, thank you. And that's I'm glad he told me because it wasn't right.
Hmm.
He doesn't sugarcoat it.
Hmm. There's a part of us that wants to prove ourselves by changing others. There's part of us, we have it. I have it all the time with no matter who comes in my life, right? So it's always like, let me prove you that I know better or that my way is better way. But I'm just gonna, nice to tell you this is the right way to do it. But the moment we realize we can't really do much, and it's almost like there's a defense mechanism that pops up out of blue, then I would do it. If you told me I have to bake my bread differently, are you fucking kidding me? But I will never listen to you. My bread, the best bread. You like it or not, eat it or not, doesn't matter. I'm making it for me. So the moment you come in to tell and change someone is where I rebel against right away. And it's a natural instinct. And I don't know why I do it. I just do it. No matter how much I love you, I will do it. And tomorrow you come in and apologize for it. I'll never forgive you for it. Right. It's like, it's a stupid mindset. But it's almost like if I'm about to so this is what I do with my mother, and it's really interesting because it changed our entire the relationship, which was very like this. And you two love each other so much. I'm just giving you the example. I love my mother so much. I wanna marry her if I can, right? So this is how much she's important to me. But it was like this. And it was like this every time I told her she's wrong in something. And those are trivial things that I thought instead of doing it directly, I learned that I need to go around it. And when I go around it, I am totally not taking her as a subject of my story. I rather tell her the story. And somebody else is subject of their story, put the seed in her mind, and a week later she changes. And I'm like, you know what? I, the trendy things are nowadays, or I just allow her to
Yeah.
come to its own terms on her own time rather than on my time. And it completely flipped our relationship.
Yeah.
So next
Beautiful.
time, maybe here's it. Next time, do it opposite and say, Carly, just do it all wrong, babe. All wrong. Don't follow the rules. Break them all, please. And she'd be like, yes. I love you
Yeah.
guys' dynamic. I love how much work you do together. It's really, really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
We're
should.
what, there's a name for it. It's like you pair with someone that is your spiritual growth partner, like where they're triggering everything that you need to work on and you're triggering everything that they need to work on.
Well, this is all I'm learning about. And it's really, really good because now you have a partner to. Sucks when you don't have a partner to test this with. So now I'm like your witness, and I'm like, okay, I can tell you what I learned, even though I don't have a partner. But
Yeah.
it's hard to actually put it in action. That's the other part, is that you actually have to be really on point with all of this that is happening within you to know exactly when to twist, when to tweak, and when to pivot immediately. So you don't get that reflection or projection back.
Right.
Okay, Mr. I know. This is what happens when we don't talk for 3 weeks.
People are like, are they talking about Jinkies still?
Yeah. Yes. Okay.
It's all
Um,
related.
I want to go to the gift and actually I want to go to the forgiveness, which is a CD. But is there anything else you think we should go over when it comes to understanding rather than what we went over the moment we come back to the heart and allow it? It's the understanding that both are part of our existence, that both are needed. We just need to kind of find the correct roles and responsibilities for each one and
Right.
pivot and figure out which one makes the decisions for life.
Yeah. let me just add some flavoring for people. The great problem with logic is it can only ever disprove itself, which we talked about, which does not make human beings feel at all secure. So ironically, people are choosing a side to have a mental solidity, but that mental solidity cannot and does not make the body feel safe. And the body can only feel safe when it surrenders to the moment without wanting something else. And that just spoke to me on such a deep level. Like that was, when you're reading the Gene Keys and like you'll get a sentence and you're like, wait, I need to read this 4 more times and just sit on that sentence. For me, it was like huge. Like I've never heard this before. We choose a side to have mental solidity, but it doesn't make the body feel safe. The body feels safe when we surrender to the moment. I'm like, oh, huge download. Now I can place the times when I was going here for solidity and then wondering, why is it not matching? Like why, like people call it anxiety or uneasiness or just a feeling of discontent or digestive issues. Like, I mean, the symptoms, the range of health problems that come out of that probably could be everything potentially. But I just found this to be like huge for me. I don't know, does it relate to you at all? Or is it something that was you tapped into at a young age, or what do you think?
This is big deal. And have you heard of this is my next book that I will read, but I am already learning this about my body. Body keeps the score.
Yeah.
The book, you heard of it? So yeah. In this book, how I understood, and in general, in the body, there will be some sort of somatic uncomfort that it's stuck. What we just did with the shoulder earlier, which I think is that the moment we tap into the body, when we tap into to work all these little dots and spots in the body, these are the dots that will show up that felt unsafe in some point of our life. In the past, in someone else's life, ancestral line, bloodline, and childhood, whatever that it is, something will come up. Those are the spots and times and moments and memories that are stuck in our bodies that we didn't release. And they are there because they didn't feel safe back in the day. So as long as we're here and we don't tap into to work and make it feel safe, we will always be detached from these two intellects and these two emotional and intellectual bodies. So I can see literally that I am in this apartment surrounded by the walls. There's no threat coming my way. I don't have lions. I don't have hyenas. I don't have guns shooting at me. I know I am safe. But at the same time, I don't feel in my body that I'm safe if I'm talking about something or if I'm bringing up the triggering emotional childhood wound. My body is going to react to it. I don't feel safe, which means I'm going to shut off, which means my shoulders are going to shrink, which means I cannot bring the sexuality or sensuality to a point where I want it to, right? So this has to do a lot with how we process things through our body, and it's connected a lot with our sensual body, which transfers further in marriage, in sex, in relationships with others, in what we trust, what we don't, and everything. So the moment you start working all these spots and dots, which are your memories, because body keeps the score, that's how you release it. That's how you start learning and reprogramming your entire nervous system, which is the body. It's not the logical mind, of how now you need to feel safe and how you wish to feel safe. And you're telling your body specifically, you're safe until you learn it. The good example of it will be that I did in a previous time, which is thanks to my mentor, is that you really find yourself as a baby. You're holding yourself as a baby. You're recording yourself talking to this baby. And as you talk to the baby, you tell your baby how cute she is, how safe you, in this case, hey, Eric. Oh, baby, you're so cute. You have such a rosy cheeks and blue eyes, and you're going to run the world when you grow up, right? You're talking to your own child. when you listen to your voice, you actually enter the body of this child and you're looking up to yourself as a big man, feeling safe. This is how you reprogram your body to feel safety and then connect together with what your environmental logic is about you. You're safe, actually, but your body doesn't know that. We need to reprogram it. So to me, this is huge. It's huge body of work because we don't know what's out there. You're perfectly fine. Hey, Eric, you're so cheerful. I have no idea what's behind that body of yours. You're just laying down and you're having a happy family. To me, you look so happy. What you talking about? No, there's so much more. And the only person that can do it is you.
Right.
And the only person that shows up every time you get triggered and when Carly and kids trigger you is you. Just in one moment, let me just work on it. And you're finding it and you're processing it. It's your work. And you show up for you, for your body. Big deal. Huge deal.
Yeah. Massive. Yeah.
Such a good work.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's a reminder of the work to be done and work that's already been done. But like those, like what you just described, like recording it and then listening to it again, like those kinds of tools, I think, like are going to accelerate the change that we're going through collectively. And on an individual level, it's like having that tool because we could spend all the time like thinking about memories or like psychotherapy, just chatting about what happened, and it's like, are we doing the work like that can shift it and change it and move it, and then you can feel it and then recover from it? I don't mean to harp on psychotherapy. I've never actually experienced it, but I find like these tools that are on the cutting edge are like accelerants, right? It's like propellant fuel, like just gonna explode everything up.
It's so good. And I think, was it the fourth or the fifth? When eventually there will be these kids coming to our reality. Oh, yeah. It's actually the gift of the fourth. And it literally speaks on what you just mentioned. Is that eventually, yeah, we need to do the work. How about this? This gave me so much hope. So it's associated okay, so because we mutate and we will evolve no matter what, because consciousness itself evolves all the time. The cosmic universal love and Christ consciousness will evolve because we're part of it, we evolve too. So growth is
Innate.
Unavoidable. Yes,
Yeah.
innate. So this mutation will essentially phase out the fourth shadow of intolerance, meaning we, on a cosmic level, not only earth level or our subjective human level and experience, will phase out intolerance eventually. Because it says the involution of powerful city energy from the highest aspect of this archetype will bring about the minor but extremely important genetic mutation of the fourth key, and it's associated with amino acid balance. This mutation will eventually phase out the fourth shadow of intolerance, meaning the children that come into the world carrying this new sequence of mutation will not be emotionally polarized. Their mental system will not run riot throughout their lives. Mm-hmm. When I read it, I was like, yes, because eventually we will not feel what we feel related to the polarities of others. Imagine the world when the kids are coming in and saying, you're pissed? I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make sense. You two are the same. This is all divinely orchestrated. And they cannot even comprehend it because the genetics is phased out. It's gone. Yeah. Because our evolution already will get to that level. And we're no longer going to bicker about bullshit things because we're different and you're a man and I'm a woman. Yeah. Hallelujah. I can't wait for that.
I already see glimpses of it with the kids that are coming in. Koa, who was just born here on Hawaii this last year. The kid is an angel. He's amazing. He really only feels like, for now, like sad, and then like kind of like, hey guys, like what's going on? But like there's something that's missing with him emotionally. I say missing because it's like a normal, like a normity. Um, and with other kids too, like they just operate on this level of like, we're here and we're all part of the journey. And it's like you can see it in their eyes. They just have the understanding before they can even speak.
So
Like,
good.
wow, that's really cool. And then Richard talked about like 2027 is the key date, like the next phase of transition. So like that's 3 years from now. How exciting. 3 years from now, these
It's
kids are going to come in
powerful.
and they're going to change their whole family.
Yeah. The entire system, everything, the way we know it is going to be gone.
Right.
Like entire way we live lives and we approach each other, the kindness between each other, the subjective solo way of living, I'm separate from you, rather than totally new way, ship totally different perspective.
Hmm.
It's powerful. Excited. Okay, so what about the forgiveness, which is the last level of this key?
Yeah. Forgiveness is a thunderbolt out of Christ consciousness. Thunderbolt. I was like, whoa, that's really huge. And then it got weird really quick, as it does with the cities.
Yeah.
um, true forgiveness is merciless because it returns everything back to its source and is a source of pure annihilation. And that just took me by surprise because as I learned about forgiveness, it wasn't an annihilating, merciless force. It was like a gentle and almost meek, right? Like almost like a weakness. Like, oh, you're
Mm.
so forgiving. And it's like, no, it's merciless. And the forgiveness that comes out of Christ consciousness is a source of pure annihilation because it comes from the future, works back to the past. And if it's on the level of Christ consciousness, then it permeates everything and it has to go back to the beginning of time. And if it does that, forgiving all things, then it brings an end to the world of form itself.
Woo! I got this totally different than you. I love it. Okay, continue, and then I'll give my 2 cents. So you think everything will be wiped off?
Well, eventually, yeah, eventually. And annihilation, it's talking about form, right? So it's like the evolution of matter into energy or matter into spirit, and then the involution of spirit into form. They're working two directions at the same time, like like the DNA counter spiral, however you want to visualize it. And this forgiveness energy is annihilating form,
Mm.
working into the past. So it's like I think like collectively our memory will shift, and it will be just like the spiritual existence in the eternal now. Like everything behind is that's what's gone, like the form and the memory with it.
Does that scare you?
Of course.
Ooh.
Of course. And it's in the fear, it's like in the meditation of doing nothing. Well, what about this? Oh no. Like label it, move on, or put it in a bubble and send it down the river. Okay. Well, I should think about what I'm gonna have for dinner tomorrow. No, you shouldn't. Move that down. It's just like this, we're all addicted to this form and this consciousness. And as our consciousness evolves, it's a shedding of our skin, it's a letting go, opening our hand continuously, and we'll still grasp onto it, and we'll still hold on to our skin and want to bring it in. And as our bodies become translucent, we'll be like, wait, I liked having a tan before. I liked that I could reflect the sun. It's just, it's all a part of it. And in truly contemplating that transition, it should be scary, of course, because it's your ego that's dying. It's the small-mindedness, the individuality that's dying.
Yeah. When you put it from that perspective, I see where the fear can come from. How I see it, everything that we think of is based on our past experiences. Right? My brain can only design based on what I hear, what I heard in the past, or the memory of something. So it only really functions based on what information that received in the past. If I feed it different information, it's going to start. Here's a good example. If I take a pen and I drop it down, my brain knows exactly what to create. A sound, a drop, I know there's a gravity, I know all these different things and information. But if I take a pen and this pen suddenly goes up instead of going down, it's a new information. It doesn't know how to think of it, but it's a new information getting fed by the brain. So to take a step further, the collective and a fear that we live in on collective conscious level is designed by all of our individual consciousness, which is brain. And the collective fear is what we dive into so frequently, to call it karma, to call it trauma, to call it obstacles, to call it wounds, to call it karmic, to call it past lives, to call it we've done this in the past. How do I create the future? So often we collectively are stuck into thinking we have some dues that we need to correct here, or sort of karma in the past, or grandma's karma that is coming down in our bloodline that we have to work really hard to correct it. This CD made me think, do we? Actually, I am working really hard to change myself and stop it. And you said it earlier, to stop it with me. But are you really going to stop it with you is the question. Or will the annihilation of all the debts and all the karmic wounds and traumas that we're carrying generational level actually be the annihilation that will release us from all these burdens? That's how I see it. So it's rather than wiping the form of the physicality in 3D, we're actually wiping the form that we think through by default because we're part of this existence right now at this time. So it's almost clean me. So I don't have to work hard to clean and clear and release and heal. These are the debts that I see the city eventually, when this keeps up coming in, there will be no more. Why do you have to clear? The car is going to come in and says, Daddy, nothing is there to clear, man.
Yeah.
Chill. And you're like, no, but this is what I really believe and feel and think I need to do. This is my life purpose. And he comes in and says, but everything is already done and gone. The annihilation that I think of is more like the karmic debt that we actually are programmed to think through the fear and through this logical mind and through everything that makes sense in the logical sense, that we really have to kind of process all this rather than kids coming in and saying, there's nothing to process, chill. Where's the innocence in it all? Other than wars and fights and fires that we have to light all the time. This is how we think. So different. I love our different perspectives, by the way.
Yeah, it's really helpful because I have all my notes here, and then you're going through it, and I'm like, I don't have that here. I don't have that either. Oh, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about this, and it's like there's an element of yin and yang that we kind of play with, and I really appreciate it. And ultimately, like you said, we're working through it for our own growth. And
yeah,
of course, if we agreed on everything, we'd be like, I don't think I want to show up next week.
Yeah. But we agree, and that's the best
We
part is
agree.
that we
Yeah,
really,
I should say if we shared the same viewpoint, we would have to have the same life and the same memory. And we obviously don't. It's super helpful to
yeah.
expand my perspective with this work that's really powerful. I can
And I
see it
feel like
through.
we're, yeah, and I feel like we're diving into it deeper and deeper, and we're getting into it better or more free, or we feel safer to actually expand on and tap how this personal relationship with the CD, or I'm sorry, with the gene key that we're talking about. It's very personal, very
Yeah.
subjective. And I can't wait to see what will the end bring when we come back to the beginning
Oh man.
and be
It'll
like,
be
all this for nothing.
I
Get
think
ready.
as an easy exercise, we could pull in, lucky that we have all of these recorded. We pull in number one, pull in a few clips, and we review them together, and then we talk through,
Yeah.
just kind of like, wow, that was my perspective. Okay, come a long way, or not.
Which is the record of our evolution and growth.
Yeah, yeah.
So good.
Okay, one more thing.
Okay.
Forgiveness is capable of inducing miracles because it can release the karmic debt that has stagnated for generations. And this made me think of, let me just touch on this with the kid. So in my effort to like shield them from the karmic debt, um, it's almost like I'm intolerant to the wounds of my family and of my lineage, right? It's almost like I do not accept that reality for my kids. I won't allow them to experience it. And then when I see them in the same patterning that I had, I'm like, shit, I can't protect them from that. It's not just me. Like I can't block it completely and then be like, you're a pure Buddha and welcome to the world. I mean, in a lot of ways, we are, but again, that the miracle of releasing it is just in the forgiveness. And
Mm.
like you said, the disappearance of that relationship with trauma that we have and how
Mm.
forgiveness can unpack that. And it's like, okay, in a moment where I'm trying to figure it out with the kids, let me start by forgiving myself. Oh, and that's actually what's healing. And there's nothing else to do. And if they want to do that, if they want to learn that, then I have to be the one to do it first.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's almost like we think we can do so much for the other because it's easy. It's almost It's almost like when we try to help another, you feel nothing. You feel very light. And another, I mean, in this case, your kids, right? So speaking of the individuals, they're human beings. No matter if they're 4 40, they're still an individual soul, unique. There's a unique, specific, authentic soul. They came here for their own purpose. But if I think that I want to change you and tell you, I'm here just to give you the
yeah,
direction of the arrow, and you get to pull it to see
yeah,
when.
really.
I'm just going to give you the direction. It, it's how I see it. It's like the moment we exit our us and the work that we have to do inside, it's you disconnect and you connect to another. And you really, if you really think about it, you really don't feel the hardship of it or the weight of it. Because it's easy to correct the kid. It's easy to correct Carly. It's easy to correct me. It's easy to correct other. But really, there's no weight on it. There's no juice. There's no substance. There's no content and context of it. It's empty plastic apple. But if I take this apple, which is me, and I take a bite of it, I feel the juice here and I feel that it's heavy and it's mine. So the moment I come back to it, hey, wait a minute, I can't really control Koa
Right.
or your kid. I can only allow him a safe space to go and explore no matter what and how. I can only control me. And if I get triggered, this is not Koa, I'm just projecting maybe or mirroring. This is me. And I want to take this and I want to juice it up because there's something that I need to change for me. And I will never be able to change anybody else other than yourself. So when it hurts and it's, I mean, when it gets like, when it makes you question or when it makes you react towards someone else, I'm speaking, this is literally me speaking to me. I hope you understand. I'm not giving you the lecture. This is me actually voicing what I need to learn. So you just happen to have ears to hear me. Yes. So when I'm giving the advice to you, it's the advice that I'm giving to myself. It literally loops right back to me and I'm speaking to me. That's the only thing I can do. So next time I get triggered and I get pissed because at the front desk lady was so cold to me, it's not her fault. It's my fault. And I'm like, why are you talking to me so cold? No, actually, why do I get triggered? This is, I want this and I want to juice it up and I want to figure out how to get weight that it's me. So I know that coming back to me is going to give me the weight. But talking about her, there's nothing. I feel nothing. I'm just pissed. Makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
allowing
It's
your,
almost like to
yeah,
externalize it makes it feel lighter. And you're saying to reflect it back to ourselves is heavier and harder,
which is why we avoid it
which is why we avoid it.
by default.
Of course. Like, I mean,
Changing you. Yeah.
like for me growing up in the Protestant Christian church, like what was communicated, the heaviest burden was the forgiveness that like Jesus Christ displayed on the cross when he was being crucified. And it stuck with me because it's the work that it was like a internal work that he was doing to help all of humanity. And I was like, logically, I don't get it, but I can see it, I can feel it, I can taste it. And that's something available, maybe not in that manifestation, but that's something available to us.
Yeah. What if Christ and Buddha were just two buddies that were like totally alcoholics and they did all the drugs and partied and had like 3,000 different concubines out there and like freaking lived their life? And it took them forever to forgive for their sins, to
Right.
forgive themselves. I read this story somewhere actually that it's true. Someone said it's true, right? And I was like, I like this story. They were fucking crazies
Yeah,
that
yeah,
came to the enlightenment.
yeah.
And to get to that level, you have to forgive yourself for having experiences such as bad and good,
Yeah.
to not being able to control everything and everyone rather than you, to accept the fact that you're totally out of control, that he came to live his life on his own and find his path because yours is totally different, to give your father, your son, yourself, your mother, and everybody else around, to accept it, that we all came here to literally figure this shit out, and nobody can tell me how to figure it out other than me. No mama, no papa, nobody can tell me. I have to figure it out. So please allow me that.
Yeah,
Allow
yeah.
me to make mistake, to light the house on fire to that extent. Allow me. Only then I will know the house is not
Yeah.
there to be lit on fire.
Well, and speaking on kids too, it's like interesting because we feel like we allow a lot, and they're like,
Mm.
but there's more that you haven't allowed me to do yet. And why haven't you allowed me to do? And it's like, we're like, I thought if I let you color on the walls, then you wouldn't be doing this thing, but you're wanting to go do that thing. Of course, naturally, like the exploration is boundless, it's endless.
Mm.
Um, and it's beautiful. Okay, I have a challenging question that came through.
Mm-hmm.
When we first got into the city, you were talking about the karmic debt being forgiven and the work that we're here to do. I don't know. I don't think you use the word meaningless. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Something to that effect. And then here we are talking about like taking on the weight and applying that and then doing that work. So it's like,
What's the point?
is there a point? Is there like a, may I tempt you with the option of doing nothing? Or is it not tempting at all? And then what comes up for you?
Time.
Okay.
At this time, when it's 2023, it's not, oh, I'm sorry, 2024, and it's not 2027 yet, it's the time. We came and we chose to come into this time to do the work until 27 hits. And these kids in 2020, 2054 ends up being adults like you and me doing the same exact podcast, talking about jinkies on another level. They'll be like, what the fuck is shadow? Let's talk about CDs. How to get right. So I think the timing is everything. Even though it doesn't exist, we live in this time and this moment of our collective consciousness and energetic, it requires us to do the work because we don't know anyhow different. There are parts that we need to literally like transform for the sake of upcoming levels of frequency to be laid upon. So I don't think that our individual work is useless or meaningless. I think it is. The future brings so much hope because this work done by us, you and me together, and everybody else around us, is going to be the base and big, thick basement that the future will be built upon.
Right.
So, yeah, I feel I'm working to understand my karmic debt. But I also believe, and I started believing this recently, that not all trauma has to be healed. Not all karma has to be healed. This feeling, not talking logic, I didn't read this anywhere, but I'm feeling, why do I have to fucking fix my grandma's karma? Girl, no, that was your choice. Now I have, seriously, and I feel that I don't have to help anyone.
Yeah.
Really. I don't have to heal every single thing. But you know what? Today I feel like healing some of the trauma. Let me tap into this world of mine and I'm just going to see what comes up and I'm going to freaking rage it in the pillow. I just did this the other day. You know what came in? My first girlfriend came up and I was like, where are you coming from? Huh? And what you told me, when you told me, I remember the memory just came right back in. And I'm like, come on. Like, okay, fine. If I allow it, something will come up. But I don't think I need to heal my whole self and all my karmic debt from my mom and my grandma and my generations and my sisters and all the women and all the energies in the cosmic like existence. No, I really don't. And I think we're evolving to understand that this is possible. That I don't have to go and dig deep if I don't feel like digging. I don't have to do the Aya. Just a good example. A bunch of people want to do Aya because they want to dig out dirt to work on. I really don't feel like doing Aya as of right now. Maybe I will when I'm 60, but he's looking at me like, Aya? Ayahuasca? You're thinking about right? It's like I don't have to, I don't feel the calling to do it. I feel the calling to do it maybe once a month, something different through breath work or something else, right? So
Right.
I don't think it's useless and meaningless, to be honest. I think we go with the feels. You and I are really good at it as Pisces. We're really good at it. We go what we feel is the right thing to do at that time for us in that season. So if it's winter and you feel like hermiting, we got you.
Yeah.
I feel like talking in summer on my side. Seriously, but we're all going to go through ups and downs, and eventually all of this will not make sense. Like the wars in 20s
Yeah.
and right, it doesn't make sense. But yet it's still part of the part of our memory that we build upon of. Did it give you a hope or destroyed all your hopes?
It didn't affect my hope. I was really enjoying how it ended and how it came together. And then you asked me about me, and then I got confused again. What did it do for me? Well, you shared a
You're
lot. It made me feel on some level like a little more peaceful.
that you're
Like no,
doing the right thing at the right time. What you're doing right now is exactly what you're supposed to do. Just the
right,
way you do it.
right. And that comes up as like, okay, yeah, ancestral memory number 3,842. That's on you. I'm not taking that one. Like, I'll get the next one. And
That's fair.
how do you discern? It's just
You don't.
annoying. Well,
You
you're
don't. You
choosing.
allow it to come up. No, the choice is you don't want to fix all of it. It doesn't really stop with you. That's the choice. Let
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
let someone else deal with residuals.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So,
I think giving it for putting it on yourself, someone else's bullshit. Allow me the freedom to call my grandma's karma bullshit is a lot, seriously. And I already have a lot of work to do in this present that I don't
yeah.
really have time. And we'll talk about that in the next one, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
why it's my fifth. But I don't really have time to deal with someone else's bullshit. You know what? When I feel like tapping into killing something, whatever that it is, I'm allowing it to come from my Akashic record. So bring it on, the century worth of 137 lives that I lived in. Something I cannot fix it all. And I'm accepting and forgiving everything behind it. And if it comes and if it bubbles up, I'm going to nurture it so much. But one thing at a time, please knock on the door. When I'm ready, you're welcome.
Gotcha. Okay.
Whew,
Beautiful
this
way
is
to end it.
channel.